We need more YA books where the parents are not useless. Oh, I'm sorry, I woke up my cat. Excuse me for talking. Anyway, we need more YA books where the parents aren't completely useless and oblivious to what is going on with their children. And this book is not quite it either. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kit, and today I would like to talk about Ace of Spades by Faridah Àbíké-Íyímídé. Nothing is pronounced correctly in this channel. You've known this for some time, so I'm sorry. I'm glad if I can pronounce my native language correctly, so don't expect anything else here. In this book, anonymous messages start distributing private information, videos and pictures to the students at the prestigious private school Niveus Academy. And this is making Chiamaka's and Devon's life quite hard. They are the only black students at this school. And now they need to figure out whether this is just a fellow student messing with them or whether there's something bigger afoot. I will try not to give much away. I will warn you when it comes into spoiler territory. But in the book you either follow Chiamaka, who is like the top of the class and more or less a queen bitch. She doesn't seem to be actually friends even with her female friends at the school. Devon is going to the school on a scholarship. He is doing very well academically as well, but he hopes to go to Juilliard. Those two have to work together because it looks like they are the real targets of all of those anonymous messages. So eventually they start working together to figure out who's after them, why, and how do they stop them. Devon is more of a shy character, and he also deals with being gay. This by itself is obviously not an issue for him, but his mom is very religious and he is rather concerned throughout the book that when she finds out she will just kick him to the street or, you know, cut him out of her life. So overall, this was a gripping story with quite a few twists that you may or may not see coming, but possibly with one or two flaws for which I will have to go into spoiler territory. First of the parents, at least Devon's mom actually takes an interest in his life. I mean, the woman works 3 jobs and has 2 smaller children at home as well, so she can't take as much part as she wants, I would say. But she genuinely cares. You have quite a few conversations between her and Devon in the book where Devon still doesn't mention the thing that is really weighing on him, that he wants to talk to her about, but they at least talk about, or at least his mom tries to get more info out of him as to how he's actually doing. Chiamaka, on the other hand, barely talks to her parents throughout the whole book. I think you can squeeze every conversation they have like on 2 pages in total. And while they show a vague interest, they are just too busy and away for far too often to really take part in her life. And neither of those characters ever tells their parents, yeah, this is the shit that is happening at school. So once again, a YA book where you either can't trust your parents, you can't talk to your parents, or your parents don't take enough of an interest to actually notice anything. And I mean, many YA books end up with like orphans or children with completely absent parents, and I would quite like to read more books in that genre or age group where the parents actually at least try to take part in their children's lives. I mean, sure, as a teenager, you don't really want them involved most of the time. I vaguely remember that. But if you run into actual problems that you feel you can't solve yourself, then I would really like more books to portray relationships between parents and children where they can actually talk to each other. So these characters are both interesting and it's fun to follow them around. Well, I say fun, I mean they deal with an awful lot of shit, but it's interesting to follow them around and they are quite different from each other. And I kind of liked Chiamaka's like queen bitch attitude at points. Was it technically necessary? No, probably not, but looking at her school, she felt like this was the way she had to behave. It does feel like Devon has more drama going on in his life than Chiamaka, and at least one part of it seems a bit tacked on, possibly. Like, oh yeah, we have to explain the missing father figure somehow as well. But I'm not sure we needed to add even more trauma for this poor guy. He's already had it rough enough. So now it's really heavy spoiler territory, but when they figure out what is actually going on at this school, they go and talk to a journalist. Like, she finds them a journalist to talk to. And the first time she mentions this journalist, I'm like, I hope this is not a white person, because you've just discovered a massive conspiracy, essentially, that is quite far-reaching, and you don't want to be talking to a journalist that is white at this point, because you never know. Then they go and talk to Alice, I think Alice was her name, and she has quite a nice tan apparently, or too much of a tan, I don't remember, but still white. I was like, no, you just discovered a conspiracy, you need to be paranoid. So, but they're not, and that backfires a bit. Devon kind of saves them from that, but that wasn't exactly planned either. So, you know, if you are faced with such an organization, then you need to be paranoid. Now, the biggest problem I had with this, obviously you have to suspend your disbelief to a degree in places, but that's generally fine. But then I find it really hard to believe that so many people have been involved in something like this on such a personal level for so long to make this happen. So on a systemic level, yes, it's established that is a thing, and we don't need to argue about that. But in this, a lot of students going from the age of like 14 to 18 or something, for the whole time that Chiamaka and Devon are at the school, are involved on a rather personal level. And that just seems a bit out there. It's not like the 2 black students you admit every 10 years into the school would fool anybody into thinking that you actually care about affirmative action, because duh, you clearly don't. So why go to such lengths and through so much planning and involve so many kids essentially on such a personal level for years just to make your racist point? Then I know you have to suspend your disbelief a bit harder there, I think. There's one little bit in the book that I didn't really get. At some point they dig through old school books to find pictures and evidence as to for how many years this has been going on. And she finds the picture of Headmaster Ward, apparently Ward named there as well, and it looks exactly like the guy who's running the school now, except he has literally just replaced the former headmaster just before summer. And for some reason the way it is written, it sounded like, oh, are we dealing with something supernatural as well? Is this like literally the same guy that did these things in the 50s or whatever? But I don't think it is, because at the very end you see him again and clearly he ages like a normal person, so I'm not quite sure why this tidbit was in there with like, oh, Ward, but he looks exactly like he does now. Or this is clearly the guy. It's like, okay, is the family resemblance just crazy? Or I was really confused by that bit, to be honest. But it has no actual bearing on the story, so don't worry about it. All in all, this book is hard to put down, and you just wish that Devon and Chiamaka will make it through the whole time. And thankfully they are quite resourceful between the 2 of them and fight back every way they can. So I would absolutely recommend this. Apparently it's for people who enjoyed Gossip Girl. I've never watched it, but I guess the very premise is very similar. So despite all of the complaining you just heard, I think this book is well worth a read, and I think it deserves this cat. And if you care about some intrigue at school with 2 very interesting main characters, then this might well be for you. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you've seen Gossip Girl, do tell me in the comments just how much this actually has in common with it. Like and subscribe if you want to help the channel out, and I'll be back next week with another video. Bye guys!